I think I've seen it all, ladies and gents. I genuinely think I've now seen it all. IGN has come out with this article. In defense of Alien Isolation, 10 years later, we revisit Creative Assembly's divisive survival horror and our review. No one, literally no one but you, IGN, thought it was divisive. It is widely regarded as one of the very best additions to the Alien franchise. It is widely regarded by the majority as the quintessential Alien game. You, ladies and gents, you IGN, gave it a bloody 5.9 out of 10. Or wherever it is. I can't remember. Where's their actual... Their overall rating was 5.9 out of 10. Disgraceful review. Absolutely disgraceful. Their verdict was atrocious. I got tagged in this over on Twitter, so thank you so much to the subscriber that did this. So thank you again. But I just thought we'd take a look because this is utter nonsense. Their whole review is drivel. I remember doing a video on this because it was just ridiculous. Their whole review was like, oh, it's too hard. Oh, okay, cool. You pansy. Anyway, so now they've come out with this stupid article. 10 years later, we revisit it. In defense of Alien Isolation. What, from yourself? You scum. Anyway, let's take a look, right? Across the many stories set in the Alien universe. Remember, take all of this, everything they're saying here, through the lens that they hated this game. And it's widely noted by a lot of people that this was when a lot of people just switched off from IGN. Also, there were some thoughts and theories that at the time, right, and I'm just repeating what people thought at the time. At the time, people legitimately thought that IGN had tried to get in with the studio and get them to pay them to do a good review. And because they didn't, they actively gave it a bad review. Right? That was a theory that was thrown out there. Also, even more so, people genuinely think that IGN's review, negative review, massively impacted the game's overall reception. And I would agree that's probably the case. But anyway, whatever. There's evidence to suggest the Xenomorph are part of some kind of hive mind that, at some level, operates as a collective consciousness. The same cannot be said for IGN. For IGN, this website is the work of a large group of individuals with varied and sometimes directly conflicting perspectives on pretty much every single game. But a review, by its very nature, can only reflect the perspective of one person. A decade ago, our own Ryan McCaffrey gave Alien Isolation a 5.9 in his review, noting that, among other things, its genuine scares were diluted by repetition and padding. Mate, that game is like piss your pants scary. Idiot. He wasn't alone in that reaction, and other major review outlets gave it similar scores for the same reasons. And everyone hated them. Today, approaching its 10th anniversary, I'm here to once again respectfully dissent and offer a different perspective. I love Alien Isolation. Oh, hallelujah. Me, my God. It's one of my favourite games of all time. And even after all these years, it remains a singular, terrifying triumph. It is mate, look at this. This is 10 years old, mate. This looks better than some graphics coming out in films. It's hilarious. Anyway, when Alien Isolation arrived in 2014, I was working at a different website. As the year drew to a close, I wrote that I believe Creative Assembly's take on survival horror was the best game of the year. I reread that piece after recently replaying the whole campaign and found that everything I loved about it at launch remains what I love about it today. It's an amazing game. The headliner of the whole event is of course the Xenomorph itself, a landmark piece of enemy AI engineering. Creative Assembly somehow managed to turn lines of code into a creature that appears genuinely terrifyingly alive. Despite operating almost entirely without a scripted sequence of actions, every encounter with it feels as though it was perfectly authored to generate maximum tension. The way it learns from your actions, such as investigating lockers after discovering you use them to hide, is truly unnerving. Honestly, this game is one of the best games ever made, actually. I stand by that. On the hard difficulty level, when the AI is firing on all cylinders, the Xenomorph truly is the ultimate foe depicted in the movies. And so I can understand why this tougher challenge is listed as the recommended way to experience the game in the main menu. But while this mode is more accurate to the experience of Ellen Ripley, it is perhaps not the best way to experience Alien Isolation for the very first time. Without prior understanding of the systems, many of which are bespoke or subversive, a playthrough on the medium difficulty is the better starting base. Ryan sadly fell afoul of this for his review, where he understandably opted for hard based on that menu prompt. They're trying to defend him. Better phrasing would have helped here. I'd describe hard mode as the faithful Alien experience, rather than the recommended one. There are still plenty of scares to be had on lower settings. I'd assumed after 10 years and plenty of documentation of how it all works, those scares would have dissipated, just as recent Alien movies have lost the element of surprise because we know so much about the Xenomorph life cycle. I was wrong. Despite a small contingency of well-executed pretenders in the likes of Amnesia, The Bunkers Monsters, and Resident Evil 2 remakes Mr. X, there's still nothing that truly compares to Alien Isolation's authentic feeling intelligence. Mate, it is so good. So anyway, there's more stuff because they just keep... he compliments the game and then he defends the game. Or defends, sorry, IGN's review. The gameplay implications of that intelligence were one of the things Ryan criticised in his review, noting that it forced a restrictive structure of hiding and waiting for the Xenomorph to move on every time it interrupted your journey. Yes, mate. That's called a game, otherwise you complete it in like 2 hours. You pleb. What an idiot. I can understand where he was coming from. I can't, since a long history of games had conditioned many people to play that way. But from my point of view, I see the alien's sharp hunting ability as the catalyst for one of the most interesting stealth games of the era because of how it boldly defies conventions. Up until that point, the stealth genre was built on observation and path recognition, understanding how an enemy's regular patrol path can be interrupted and exploited. The Xenomorph, however, has no regular path to exploit, making it unpredictable. Your approach has to be much more reactive and, as a result, more authentic to the reality of the situation. Yeah, basically, you absolutely piss your pants playing this game. The throwable noisemakers and flares act as distraction, pulling the alien away to open up new routes. Emergency override buttons lock down doors, putting a hard barrier between you and it. Smoke bombs and rewired air purification systems hide you from view at the cost of your own vision. Through smart and admittedly risky use of these tools, you can sort of wrangle your hunter. You can't. While the Xenomorph plays by its own rules as it stalks you, Alien Isolation does make use of observation and pattern recognition. The clatter of metal, and this sort of just keeps going on and on and on like this. But it is funny as he starts to sort of trying to defend their own review. I mean, it's just nonsense. And they're getting a lot of hate, by the way, on Twitter for this as well, because they posted this on Twitter. They're getting not like a lot of hate. But it keeps going. I thought we'd scroll down a little bit further. So here we go, right. And while Creative Assembly's bespoke engine is able to render dynamic lighting, much of the final act is created through careful use of baked-in shadows. It's proof that artistic intention can trump technical brawn. There's no ray tracing here, but it really doesn't matter that every light isn't dynamic when everything is so fine-tuned by hand. Mate, it's amazing. It is so good. So good. The Xenomorph and the Sevastopol are impressively designed, but together they produce some of the most stressful gameplay in modern-ish memory. Creative Assembly shows a strong understanding of what our limits are, though, and so the campaign undulates between stretches of alien encounters and other gameplay styles. The most stressful sections are often followed by quieter, safer periods of exploration and puzzle solving. There are also variations of the stealth systems. And again, we'll scroll down, because again, it talks about utter nonsense. Oh, so good. Look at this. Oh, it's so good. The time it takes to reach that point is a common criticism. So this is talking about the end, right? So, through the flamethrower, Creative Assemblies brilliantly replicates the final girl trope. After a dozen hours of desperate survival and learning your enemy's mode of operation, it's time to finally stand up for yourself. The time it takes to reach that point is a common criticism. Ryan's review, as well as many others that were much more positive overall, posit that Alien Isolation is simply much too long. Oh no, you get bang for your buck. I hate IGN. I really do. It's an idea I reject. That aforementioned pacing means the campaign doesn't outstay its welcome, at least in terms of gameplay design. It's a clear demonstration of how we all have different responses, even to the things we collectively agree on, and, as my own thoughts on length and pacing shows, even some of the most glowing assessments don't always correlate with our own positive experience. What I will concede, though, is that the final act is flawed in terms of narrative and objective design. As Ryan correctly identified, bollocks, It suffers from Return of the King syndrome, with the final stretch featuring a number of false finales. I like that try our patience. Yeah, because then when you do get the payoff, it's like, oh my god, but then it's not a true payoff. It's amazing. Really is, actually. There's also a reliance on backtracking under pressure, which instead of feeling organic, seems included purely to induce panic and frustration, but rather than cut the campaign short, I'd rather Creative Assembly had shuffled its last act objectives to make them feel more meaningful. Like any good alien story, after leaving Sevastopol, you discover that one final Xenomorph has infiltrated your escape vessel. But instead of acting as a killer final sequence, this story beat is an underbaked obligation. There's no exploration of the ship, no clever solution to the problem, just a quick time event, button press, and a disappointing cut to black. It's not disappointing. It's really, really cool. The implications of the wider lore are insane. I wish the extended retreat from Sevastopol, sorry. Where is it? Sorry. Had been condensed in order to allow more time on the escape ship, enabling a much more significant and satisfying "you thought it was over" twist. Nah, mate, so good. So good. And then continues further. Even so, I maintain that the vast majority of Alien Isolation is nothing short of brilliant, and while GameSpot, Polygon, and the Toronto Sun all put out reviews along the same lines as Ryan's, Alien Isolation eventually landed on a score of 79 on Metacritic. Yeah, because we liked it and you idiots didn't like it. It's safe to say those reviews were outliers among critics. To be fair, so am I, just in the opposite direction. There's no shame in that. We're all outliers on one game or another, and if you write enough reviews, especially before you know how other people will react, the same thing will inevitably happen to you. Opinions, eh? Mate, it is a masterpiece. It is a masterpiece. Let's have a look. Oh, you're still getting F'd in the A. Anyway, I thought this was very, very funny. And they are absolutely being obliterated over on Twitter for this, by the way. So, here they are on Twitter. And they just posted this here, right? And I just wanted to take a look at it. Look, you guys gave it a 5. It's up there with Resident Evil 7. It's amazing. Divisive. I don't remember it that way. The most divisive thing was the score you gave it. I remember when you gave it a 5.9. Back then I stopped trusting your scores and unsubscribed on YouTube. Imagine telling on yourselves years later for saying it was an average game. Defense. You're the ones who said it was bad. We pretty universally enjoyed it. Yep. I have yet to beat it due to online multiplayer games taking my time. Kind of a mystery why they never came out with an official VR mod. Seems like they... Yeah, that's true actually. Yeah. Look at the comments are like, mate, whatever. You're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot. People loved it. Anyway, it was your review. Look, they gave it mediocre. Sorry, IGN. You can't hit the undo button now. It's on your record for life. Anyway, there you go. Ladies and gents, love to hear your thoughts. Let me know down below. Cheers, guys. Take care. Bye-bye now.